Here we go. I heard you when you said podcast. Episode number, who cares, because you're not counting episodes anyway. I am Justin, and some might call me a professional, but none would call me a medical professional. I'm not a doctor, don't play one on the internet, and I am here with the ever so lovely crop top wearing, lantern discarding woman known across the world as Stacy Hansen. What's up, Stacy?
I love our introductions because I'm always so curious to how you're going to introduce me. Like, it's my favorite, like, almost tension builder of what is he going to say? Am I going to blush? Is it appropriate? And how does the world see us versus how we see each other? So that was really good. And welcome, world. I too am a professional in so many things. So many things I'm a professional in. But I also am not a doctor. I don't play one on the internet. And anything we say or do cannot be used against us in a court of law or against us in our friendship. And it's just basic good guidelines. We're giving you a seat at our table to hopefully help you in some way in life, be inspired, take action, bring it back to your business, your family, your life, and we become better with it.
All right. Question for you.
Oh my God.
Most interesting thing that you're willing to bring up that's happened to you in the last 24 hours?
Oh, thank God. He went 24 and not 48. I like that. That would have been very different. 24 hours. I made sourdough for the first time. And I got a little bit of internet shame from my other sourdough bakers after seeing Felicia. That's the name of my starter, Felicia. And the internet named her, going, when have you baked bread? I'm like, I haven't. I'm scared. And really, one of an acquaintance of mine goes, you're scared of flour, salt, and water. The truth is, I didn't want to get it wrong. Like, I was so afraid of getting it wrong. And I'm a really good baker, but I didn't used to be a good baker. And I can't tell you how many cakes I would throw out. And my husband would come home knowing that I was baking something. And he would ask me, where's the cake? And I'm like, I threw it out. He's like, you did what? Kind of like a lantern discarder. For those of you who want the inside scoop, is we're moving. So I'm just selling random things around the house. And my husband has an emotional attachment to a lot of things. So I'm really careful of what I get rid of. And I've asked about a lot of things that I thought he would be attached to that he's not. But these lanterns that sit behind my desk that were just collecting dust and cobwebs, I didn't know he was attached to. And he probably never would have known, except I didn't delete the post off of Facebook Marketplace. And he had a very emotional reaction to these lanterns that came from Ace Hardware. Okay. These weren't even like Pottery Barn lanterns or like even Home Goods. These were from Ace freaking Hardware. So I was afraid of messing this up. And so I did mess it up, but I had seen something on Instagram for sourdough beginner bakers that said, even if it looks like crap, bake it anyway. Never throw out your dough. Like, give it a chance and bake it anyway, because you're going to learn something in the process. And I did. And my kids were like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, Mom. A little dense, had great bubbles, but it's interesting just the things you learn about yourself when you try something new. I don't like to be bad at things. This is not new. You know that I hate being bad at things. And the patience to be a beginner at something. So it's fascinating. And I'm going to make another loaf today. And I'm going to be better at it.
I like that. See, that's what tells me that we have a different perspective on food, is because I have made some things that were about a step away from I wouldn't even feed this to my dog. And I would still eat it because I made it. I'm like, I'm not throwing this out. So I can there are some things I'm like, okay, this is not even worth it. But I'm a little bit more in step with Ted's mindset is like, I mean, it's a little off, but it'll ride. We'll do with it. Yeah.
On that note, and we're going to have a disclaimer on this podcast anyway, that if you don't like foul language inappropriate humor, you should probably just leave now. But this is how I view food that I make or that I mostly eat. This is why it's hard for me to go out to eat. Food should either have like a sexual response or a religious response. And so it should either make you go like, oh my God, in one way or another. So when I make something, like if it doesn't like land on some kind of holy experience, then it really wasn't worth making and I'm not going to keep it. Like it has to have like some hit to it or it's just like, I'm like, I'm not going to make that again.
Well, thanks for completely ruining my perspective on please bless this food to the nourishment of our body. I guess we all find nourishment in a little bit different ways. So, with that being said, but that's for anybody who's just now listening on, what would be the 11th episode. That is Stacy in literally one sentence. Food either has a sexual response or a religious response. And Stacy works at the cross section of those two things. And that's why we get clients great results. So just understand that if you're listening, and if that doesn't make any sense to you, good. You should probably just message Stacy and find out. For me, one of the most interesting things I just published today, the last podcast that we did, which was 5 days ago, something like that. And that was our 10th episode. So I thought that was awesome. I thought that was awesome. So, I think you introduced me to this statistic, but statistically, a large majority of podcasts don't make it past the 10th episode, or they don't record 10 episodes, which from Tim Ferriss, one of the beginning episodes of Tim Ferriss I ever listened to, or somewhere in that first year that I was listening to him, who has a great podcast and interviews very interesting people, was that if you want to start a podcast, you should record 8 episodes before you ever release it. Something to that effect, because most podcasts don't make it past 8 episodes, right? So 8, 10, the relative timeline. We've had it for about 2 months now. And so, yeah, I just thought that was really cool and interesting. And, we're celebrating.
Do you plan on stopping?
I don't plan on stopping.
I don't plan on stopping. You guys got us for a long while.
I plan on making it better.
We're going to make it better.
Maybe intro music, a little like sound effect here and there. Like when Stacy says something dumb, we just put a wah, 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 wah.
I love that it was when only I say something dumb. Do you say it?
If we did it when I said something dumb, the whole podcast would be that sound. So.
No, I love doing this with you. And I mean, we tease about for how long we get to do this, but as far as I can see into the future,
that's a long way. It's a long way. It's a longer way. The other thing that people should know is that Stacy has a gift of, I wouldn't say she's like a fortune teller. It's not really the appropriate term. It's probably actually short selling what Stacy does, but she has the ability to detect when things are going to happen and what things are going to happen to some degree within a relative degree of certainty. How it happens is not up to us, but it is funny to see how some people perceive and how I was so imperceptible to it. I think this is what made you tolerant of me in the beginning, because I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. That doesn't even register on my radar. And it's probably be within the last 6 months that I even understood what that even meant. It's like, hey, I have this gift of being able to see the future. And that's just, in quotations, in air quotes, is like see the future, being like, hey, I can take things that are happening and I can kind of put them in a bubble and go like, yep, that's probably going to be the likely outcome of that. And, so anyway, for people who don't know.
On that note, because I still want to get into what we're talking about today.
Oh, for sure.
Ted and I have this app. It's called Paired. And so it helps with communication, and it asks us a question each day. And now that he's back in town, and we text each other because, like, for the population, my husband's not the most technological savvy person. Like, he's adorable and I love him, but technology is not his gifting. And so he gets so many notifications, he doesn't know when I've answered a question. He's like, so text me so I know that you answered a question, because I don't know if this app is just like wanting me to do something or if you answered something. So yesterday he's like, hey, I answered a question on Paired. And you can't see your partner's answer until you answer. And I actually screenshotted, I almost sent it to you and Paige last night so you could see it. And for the internet watching, yeah, that's how close our friendships are. When my husband and I answer questions, I will share them with Justin and Paige, because it's like, in a way, our families are doing this together. Like, we have our individual families, but when you're in business together, there is this cooperative, really between the four of us, and throw in some children, that working towards something collaboratively and separately at the same time. But it was really interesting. So the question was, where do you see us in 5 years? And with about 90% accuracy, the way we saw our day in 5 years was very similar, but mine had more specific details. But everything else was line item for line item for line item. So I share that for like, hey, we've been married for 25 years, together for 27. And even through some really challenging seasons, when you ask us, like, where do we want to be? Where do I see us in 5 years? If you strip out the lanterns that I discarded, or all the other marital bullshit that gets conflated with just being together so long, like, the vision is, hey, 5 years, our days are on a front porch having coffee and all of that. So just tying out of that vision.
Man, that's cool. That is really cool.
Yeah,
especially because you
it.
probably wouldn't have figured that out with the accuracy that it would be told without having something like a tool like that to compare your answers. Because in real life, you'd say, oh, well, how do you see it? They would answer, and then you would use their answer to inform your answer. Right. So
100%.
That is pretty cool. The anonymity that it provides. But on the subject of our podcast being around for a couple months, that's also roughly how long we've been officially in business, I guess. Yeah, officially, which is, I guess, a relative term. When the LLC was formed, when we started coaching people, when we had the idea, there's a timeline of events, but that's less important than what we want to talk about today, which is some lessons we've learned so far along the way. And we're calling this lessons learned in business, but it really, business, life, fitness, anything you want to talk about, really the principles are very, very interweaved and connected. They only differ by different by degree, not by type. So, anywho, so Stacy and I went on a when I say went on a walk, we went on a walk at the same time on the phone together, okay? Because we're not in the same place. But, we went on a walk yesterday and we're like, all right, let's hash this out. Let's see what we want to talk about. So one of the bigger things that we came up with at the beginning was the plan is not to stick to the plan. And this is a very confusing statement if you don't understand it in the beginning. But essentially what it means is don't be married to your plans. Plans can change. So the plan is XYZ, not the plan is to execute this thing no matter what the conditions, because you have to adjust to changing conditions and the information that you're getting. So what did you come up with about the ways that we adjusted our plans along the way so far?
Well, I'm always going to go back to July 15th, 2023. That is going to be the day, if you say, like, truthfully, when did our business start? Not the day that we started the LLC, not the day like we left where we were previously, but the day like this vision was birthed, like business was birthed, was going to be that day. If you guys are wondering how I know that day, it was because it was Benjamin's birthday, and it was the first birthday I had missed for any of my kids. And it just happened to work out that I was with Justin and Paige, and it was that day. And I remember sitting on your couch and going, what are we doing? And our vision was, at the time, that we were going to take this dual coaching standard, this 2-on-1 protocol, and bring the best of you and the best of me to one client. And our vision at the time was that we were going to keep coaching individually. That us being individual coaches was really, up until recently, never not on the table.
Mhm.
And how we were going to do it and all of that, we were like, okay, let's start to test this out. And little by little, we took the results that we had seen from the clients we had worked together with and grew it and built it. And the more you learned and the more I learned, we just fine-tuned this process. And it's even changed in the last 8 weeks to the thing that was never really on our radar for the last almost year is this group coaching style and what we've made the cohort. And, Webster's is calling us and asking for a definition of coachcation because it wasn't in there before. And we make up words and give them definitions, and sooner or later, culture will catch up.
It'd be more like Urban Dictionary instead of Webster's at this point.
Of course, with us, it would be Urban Dictionary, and it has 17 meetings and probably a diagram, and that's a completely different channel. But yes, it would be Urban Dictionary. Coachcation. Don't send us a diagram later. That the thing that we thought was going to be the thing actually has changed and evolved. And what we wanted has changed and evolved, with the vision of serving people still being the same. And even how we would do it, because me even moving to Texas a year ago was, can you do the Matthew McConaughey voice? It would be cooler if you did.
Be a lot cooler if you did.
It would be a lot cooler if you did, was just like a, But when you said it and then Paige said it, when you talk about how I get to know things ahead of time, was like, nope, this is the next move. This is where we're going. So that our vision is the same, but we're not married to how it happens. And even individual coaching right now, other than the clients that we both currently have individually right now, isn't the goal. Like, unless there's someone who's really uncomfortable working with you as a male, and because we work with people with really challenging pasts, and I can get that, even working with me individually is off the table unless it's special circumstances. This is you and I together. And the thing we thought we would do, we're actually not. And the thing we didn't think we'd do more of, we are actually doing completely.
That's true. And I think it came down to how we talk, or how we phrase what we do and who we do it for. Mm-hmm. We had this vision going in of, hey, we want this type of person. All right, it's like we want a person with autoimmune conditions, and we're going to show you the functional nutrition side of that and how to navigate that and help support that as best as possible. Oh, and by the way, I almost guarantee that you're going to need this trauma-informed mental navigation side of it too. What we've come to realize is that it's actually very much the opposite, and that people who we are attracting are actually fall heavier into the mentally distressed, right, survival mode-esque type of people. At least that's the situation that they're in. And they have no idea of the other side of the equation, which is, oh, this is why, or this could be a reason why I struggle with X condition, or losing weight, or, fatigue, or whatever it is. And so it's actually become something that we've recognized as like, oh, hey, look, we're not married to attract, like, to saying we do this and we do this. It's still the same thing. We're just talking about it in a different way so that we get a certain type of person. That's really that's really the key. And, that being said, you don't have to have some sensitive, traumatic background to work with us. But what we find is that everybody has at least one thing that has, if they're seeking coaching help, that has held them back or continues to be a hindrance. And the method that we use in terms of digging into people's past is effective for that as well. Even if you didn't have this like one big capital T trauma like we talked about before, those little T's add up too. So,
well, I also think it's the age demographic that is your sweet spot, and mine too, right? So, like, your sweet spot is that perimenopausal, menopausal woman, like 35 to 55. even a little bit more a woman. And so you live enough life. You've been married a while, or divorced, or married again, had a few kids. Like that just collective life experience comes with some consequences. And then you add on the hormonal responses of just that area of life that even cause more stress because your body's not responding the way it was previously. And now you have your hormones freaking out because, you know, this isn't childbearing years anymore. There's all those emotions attached to it. And we just took your sweet spot and my sweet spot and went like, hey, come sit at our table and we've got a solution to support you through it.
Absolutely. Another big key that we've learned so far is managing our expectations.
You gotta expect those things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we had that rocking, we had that lesson going, you know, earlier on in our friendship, but we've now expected it in business as well. Is like, hey, look, collecting money is hard. Collecting money is hard, so don't expect it to be easy, right? Managing communication, right? Like managing how you advertise yourself, how you communicate with your clients, how you file your taxes. I mean, like the little things that you don't understand in the beginning, when you're like, hey, I think this is a great idea. We could help people. We could make money. We could do this. And that's great. And you should hold on to that, because you could have the expectation that it's going to be easy. And granted, I don't think personally we've had anything that's like, wow, this is like overwhelmingly hard. We've been pretty blessed and we've been pretty lucky so far, which I don't think a lot of people will admit because they work so hard. They'll say like, oh, it's not luck. I worked really hard. Sure, I work hard, but I'm not a dumbass either. I realize that luck is part of the equation. So we have learned, and this is one of the harder parts of our process so far, is that we have to do the acting. We have to act with the faith that things are going to pan out the way in our favor, no matter whether it's the way we thought it was going to happen or not. But we're going to act with the faith that things are going to pan out without setting some type of unrealistic expectation or just even sometimes moderate expectation, which I know that sounds like, wow, your bar is really low. It's not that our bar is low. It's just that, hey, we know that human nature is human nature and we work with people as a business. And so people are faulty and we're faulty and we forget and we get tired and, you know, insert human nature here. And so our expectation is set to the degree that we need to be able to move forward. But we still operate with the faith that things are going to work out. And if something challenges us in a way we weren't expecting, we just take it and we move to the next thing. So
I would say if people are watching us and wondering like, how do they do this? You hear a lot of us refer to each other as we, and this is where, like, even in our friendship, I've said, hey, we're the exception, not the rule. And that's because not that you can't do this with somebody else. You absolutely can, but it takes a level of trust and intimacy and transparency that our visions were aligned really early on. So as you're talking about expectations, those are things really external of you and I. But you and I, if there's one thing we've done really well, is we manage each other's expectations really, really, really well. And I was trying to think back of when did that start, because it feels so organic between us that I don't ever remember us having a conversation of like, I need to do this better at managing expectations. It's just been so fluid and organic. Like I can't even remember us having a conversation about it. We just kind of naturally fell into our roles. There's been a couple of things that was like, hey, do you want this to be my job or this to be your job? But we've just been unified on looking at external expectations and going, hey, we both saw that a little bit off, or we both kind of stepped into that puddle just because we're wired very similarly. But with each other, I don't know that we've ever had that conversation.
Not specifically. I think it's just come up situationally, you know, not necessarily from an expectation either. Like, Stacy, this is what I expect you to do. Like, I just don't, that's just not how we communicate. It's like, hey, here is the thing that we're running toward. What do you want to take ownership of? What do I need to take ownership of? And it typically lies within our strengths. I mean, just things that we gravitate toward more readily, which I actually got to laughing earlier when you said that your husband's not the most technologically advanced. I'm like, wow, that's saying something coming from Stacy. Because there have been some times where I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure you know what you're doing? Or are you just trying to trick me? Are you just trying to put on a front? Ask for help if you need it, that type of thing. And then that comes with because people see that, right? They're like, hey, y'all are a fair distance apart in age. And it's like, well, yeah, that pops up in some ways, right? Mm-hmm. I grew up with a lot of this stuff technologically and you didn't.
No.
And you've never worked completely from home on a computer before. And so it's a difference in efficiency and difference in utility. And so like the first thing that it popped up, I remember, was the PDF thing. You're like, I'm going to figure this out. And I'm like, you know what? This is a great time for Stacy to really learn about herself, because I don't think she's ever had to grapple with something technology like this before. And so I thought it was just funny when you said that. I was like, huh, that's interesting, because I don't know that she wouldn't have considered herself tech savvy, 2 months ago, but now she is.
I still don't, but look at that Excel spreadsheet I made for you the other day. That was. Were you slightly impressed? Just trying
It's not nothing. It's not nothing.
Hey,
it's something.
Hey, I'm making my way, my way your way.
Understood. But yeah, the point there is expectations can crush you if you placing them upon a person like you, like a business partner, like a friend, like a spouse, like a whatever, right? Like a kid. Expectations are crushing when you're placing them on someone and they don't even understand what the expectation is. And you have an expectation that's not in line with the capacity to do, the capacity to perform, the capacity to get things done. And so we actually had this part of this discussion yesterday, is like, even within our own little worlds, like just us interacting with the things that we use, like Stacy interacting with social media, Justin interacting with Google Drive, whatever it is, we have to alter the way that we see, like, how much things we can get done, like how much we can get done at one time. And one thing I heard today, which I thought was super helpful, was, I've heard it a million times, but it doesn't matter till it matters, right? Is work will fill the time allotted. So if you give yourself an hour, it's going to take an hour. But if you only gave yourself 20 minutes, you could probably do it in 20 minutes. Now, granted, there's going to be some things that you're going to have to condense, but that's the point, right? That's the point. So we've learned some of those things along the way. Speaking of time, another big thing we learned is everything takes 30 more minutes. Everything takes 30 more minutes. And that's really the end of the point. That is the whole entire point right there. And we could move on and everybody would gain something from that. But here's the thing. If you set something on your calendar for an hour, I'm just telling you, it's going to take 30 more minutes. And that's just a euphemism for plan for some overtime.
We're getting better at that, but this is one of the things that I can't believe we missed. And I'm going to go back to like the very early stages of our relationship when I was just your client and we had 30-minute phone calls every week.
Yeah, right. I don't think I've ever had a 30-minute phone call with you ever in my life. I can count on one hand the number of times a call with you has ever been under 30 minutes. Let's just put it like that. Okay.
I can't help that you like to talk to me so much. Okay.
I was going to say the same thing. You're so selfish, Stacy. I'm other people need my time and attention. Okay.
Yeah, I know. But looking back, I think how funny that is that like just now, with Mike looking at our schedules, because I even moved a call that I had right after this thinking we could do this in an hour. Yeah, bullshit. What were you thinking? Like,
yeah. As soon as you had don't have that thought again. Okay.
Yeah, everything's gonna, especially with us. But I think it's so funny how long it took us to make it. Like, it's gonna take 30 minutes longer. It
Well,
only took us 2 years to get here. It's no problem.
hey, remember our biggest combined fault that we have as a team.
When there's just one, let's go for it.
We stay too long.
Oh,
We stay too long. It's the thing we see come up again and again and again. It's like we hold out that like, nope, we'll figure this out. This will get better. Da, 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 da. And even if we try, like we're actively trying to condense a meeting or whatever it is, you could reduce frustration and efficiency, increase efficiency and everything with just going back and going, hey, here's a pattern. This is a very clear pattern. You do not stick within these time bounds, so you need to adjust accordingly. So yeah, again, there it is popping up again. Just again, interpersonally, most of the time we refer to staying too long as things that we've been a part of and are no longer a part of. But now comes down to the micro of, hey, are you sitting on this project too long when you could have either collected some information, moved on to something else, or outsourced it, or paid for somebody else, you know what I mean? Something like that. So
I agree with that.
Anywho, lessons learned. This is a big one. So I would say that this is something that we haven't really had to learn from a negative experience. We've had this on the radar since day one, but we set our business up to build the life that we want, not the other way around. Not bending our life around to the business that we want. We were like, hey, the business is a means to this end, right? And the business is not a means to making the most money we can in online coaching. The business is not a means to have the biggest roster of clients that we can have or build a scaled coaching business or whatever it is. That's not the vision. The vision is so that, like you said, when you and your husband answer that question, what does our life look like 5 years from now? That actually is what it looks like with a pretty good degree of certainty. And we have the options. We have the sovereignty. Again, that's our main thing. And you can go back and listen to, whatever episode we said that in, the freedom to operate with certainty in the things we want to do. So I phrase that as form follows function. So like, what's the function? What's the thing you want the business to be able to do? Well, we want the business to be able to grow to a point to where we can maintain this level of freedom and opportunities to go and do and see and speak and all that kind of stuff. And that is like having that as the goal. The form, it will start to take shape as time goes on. So I know you have a lot to say about this one.
Oh my gosh, I have so much to say about this. I always say our conversations are my favorite conversations. That, oh my gosh, that was the favorite conversation we've had. And then we have another conversation and that becomes my new favorite. But yesterday's conversation was such a pivotal one. And I don't want you guys who are listening to miss this. We are intentionally building our business counter-culturally to how everybody else says to grow a business.
Sure.
Especially at the beginning, that we looked at what our families want, what we want for our families, and then how to do that. And I'll give you an example. What I said for 5 years from now is that I wanted to be sitting on my front porch in a rocking chair, drinking coffee with my husband after we fed the cows and the chickens. And then we go work out and train together. And that we have neighbors over for Friday night s'mores, that we have the freedom to do whatever we want and then steal my grandkids and like have people over for Sunday night dinners. That in that we looked ahead of even you bringing Kason home next week. Of you bringing him home 2 days a week was one of the things we wanted. And 8 weeks in, we're already there and adjusting our schedules to be like, okay, we work like this together on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And that'll change a little bit when we're in the same city because we could work from a park. But instead of going, hey, we're starting this business and we need to grow and do all this, you could have kept Kason in care longer, but that's not what we wanted. It's not what we wanted for our families. And so what I want people to hear is like, it is possible to do the thing you want and build a business in a way that's sustainable, that doesn't drain you. Like, and that is really where we hold each other accountable to what you said to me yesterday. Stacey, I don't want you thinking about what you need to do tomorrow at 9:00 at night before you go to bed. That's not why we did this. And I haven't seen it done this way. I haven't seen it done this way. It's the hustle culture. It's get it all done. It's get as many people as you can, build this empire. And not that we're not building an empire. We are. But very early on, we are laying the foundation for, we want to travel and speak together. Okay. Well, to do that, then our client in person, online calls need to look a certain way.
Mhm.
Our cohorts need to be laid out a certain way. And even when we were talking yesterday, it was one of those things is, where do we curate rest into our rhythm, personally and professionally, of you with Paige and me with Ted, and then you and I together, and then our families together. And I don't know, and maybe it's just not shared by other business owners, or even, can I call us baby entrepreneurs? I mean, we're baby entrepreneurs.
Babypreneurs.
Babypreneurs.
Back to the Urban Dictionary.
Oh God. I think that I have not seen this done this way. And if I look at my friends who have very successful businesses, who are also my clients, they're looking to get back to the life that we are curating and watching us with such curiosity, going, how do I step back? I've built this amazing business, but I actually want what you and Justin are building. Not that they want to doing what we are doing, but they want the life that we're creating, and they're having to step back and go, where do I create this margin so I can live again? I've got a thriving business. I've got all the money, but I want my life back. And we are protecting our lives as we build a business. And I haven't seen it done before this way.
Yeah. Well, I think too, if you're listening to this and maybe you're not an entrepreneur, but you have something that you want to function a certain way. You want your job to function a way. You want your relationships to function a certain way. Like, you want a certain outcome. So you work backwards from that outcome, that vision, to form the structure of what it's going to look like, right? And it shapes along the way. That's always it's a fluid entity. It's never going to be like, it's done and now I'm set. Because as soon as you think that, then you're automatically actually going in the other direction, because you're not putting effort into it anymore. You have to continually put continually put a decent amount of effort into it until you get to the point where, like, hey, this is pretty much how I thought it would turn out, how the shape that I wanted it to take. Now, what's the maintenance of it look like? There's phases in this endeavor. What I'm trying to get at is that you have to stay focused. Working on those words. Focus is very important, because who you're going to compare yourself to, probably not in the same situation. And I see this a lot. I don't pay a lot of attention to, I don't know if it's good, bad, or indifferent. I don't pay a lot of attention to really other entrepreneurs. I don't look at other people building businesses, not with a business eye, to be like, oh, that's cool. Now, I'm in circles just naturally because of the way social media works and putting those people in front of your face and, investing in services that help your business grow. I'm in circles with those same kind of people. But I don't look at other people and go, man, they have such a successful business. I wonder how I can get mine to be that, or I wish mine was like that. I don't wish a whole lot, because most of the time in entrepreneurial world, I'm not comparing myself apples to apples to another thing. I'm going to tell you right now, most people who are starting businesses are not parents. I don't have any statistics to back that up, but they do not have a family. They are either single, they're in a relationship, no kids, right? Like, they're whatever they are. And I'm not saying that's good, bad, or indifferent. What I'm saying is the set of responsibilities that they have and the set of responsibilities that people with families have are two different sets of responsibilities. And so while you can go back and forth all day on that subject, when you look at the pulls on your time, the pulls on your energy, the pulls on your resources, well, it's really easy to get sucked into hustle culture when you don't have other things holding you back, so to speak, other things to ground you, because that's probably a better way. That you get caught up in, like you said, building the business as big as it can be and more than you ever dreamed of. And now all of a sudden you set up these structures and now you're the bottleneck. Now it's like, holy crap, how do I exit this? Or how do I step back from this so that it actually runs on its own? Maybe not at the highest level, because maybe you brought something to the business that only you can bring, but that's leadership, right? That's leadership, is putting the right asses in the right seats and empowering them to be able to do whatever they need to be able to do so that they see success and the business sees success. And so what people, like you said, most people work backwards. They go, hey, I'm going to get this thing up and going, and I'm going to get this thing on fire. And then I'm going to figure out how to push myself back. Well, that figuring out how to push yourself back is very costly, because you're ready to start reducing your effort in the business. And that takes a lot more effort on your part, because you're the head honcho, right? You're the guy, you're the woman making the decisions. And so you become the bottleneck. We're trying to flip that on its head, or working to flip that on its head and go, hey, how do we keep this as open as possible? And slowly we're actually trading off the ability to make money quicker, to be honest with you. Sure. Not the ability to ultimately make more money, because that's going to come with this structure as well, but we're ultimately slowing down that ability to make money quicker so that we have the options, so that we can pivot when necessary, so that we can choose 1 week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, a year, to where we're like, hey, clients, do what you need to do. We'll be back next week, right? That type of thing, so that we can learn and grow and get creative and go spend time with our families and spend time with each other and spend time with our spouses and all that kind of stuff. And so what I'm getting to is the next point, which is what we've learned, is that the moves that we're actually making today, like right here recording this podcast, are actually not about recording this podcast. They're about what that allows us to do in the future. So our moves are actually setting up future moves. It's like a chess game. This is why it gets compared to that all the time, right? Is, hey, I'm not moving this one piece because I'm trying to make it this direct approach to your piece. I'm moving this one piece because what it allows me to do is it switches the nature of the game to where now I can utilize other resources on the board, and I can go and attack your side of the board if we're talking about chess. And so set things up for how you want to live your life, not always this external metrics of success. In our life, it's money. In our life, it's most people trade their time at the expense of money. I actually did this on the whole reason I got into business for myself is to not do that. And so I have to constantly remind myself. That's what I'm saying. It's literally a reminder, you talking to you every single day, looking at our vision board, or just reminding each other, hey, look, I got out of personal training because I don't want to trade my time for money. I saw the limits to that. And I'm tired of trading my time for money in a direct fashion, right? So how do I scale the time that I currently have? And this is the beginning of that.
As you were talking, the words that come to mind, and we use this in so many contexts, personally and professionally, is discipline equals freedom. The discipline that we have right now to actually hold back and not scale to the earning potential that we could right now, because we could go balls to the wall right now with the way that people are attracted to us and all of that's happening right now. We could, and we're like, hold on. And I even think about the conversation we had last week with one of the companies that we're working with, going, hey, very quickly here, you two are going to have to figure out how to make more reviews. And I loved your answer, and it would have been my exact answer. You just happened to answer it first. Is no, we're actually not interested in that. We're not making more of us's. This is just you and I. We're protective of each other and our families and what we've created. So what we will do is A, B, C, and D, and we will work within this context. And we can do this other thing too to make us more accessible. We'll make a digital product and make it at a lower price point and all of that, so you have more access to us. But we're not going to do that thing. And I look at that discipline of really early on, before the demand for us is more than we can sustain, when we jokingly call it like, hey, put your net on the other side of the boat. We're about to.
Yeah.
We're a couple weeks out from putting that net on the other side of the boat and having problems I can't wait for us to have. I can't wait to have those opportunities and us figure out how to navigate it. But if we're talking about how to give other people the opportunity to do this, it's the discipline that we have personally in our own core values, the discipline that we have in our marriages, and then the discipline we brought that to our business that goes, we're gonna trade off this in the future for less right now, because what we want looks different. And I think that's tangible for wherever people are as listening. And you hear us talk about and we didn't make it up, discipline equals freedom. But the more discipline you have in any area of your life, the more freedom you have, and it's exponential. And that's saying no to the thing you want the most right now to the thing you want the most later.
Absolutely. Right. It's just following the small rules so that you don't have as many rules, right? If you follow the daily rules, your strategy becomes unlimited. You can move around a lot. You can pivot. And when I think about not doing the opposite, but doing something that's very counterculture, counterintuitive. This is the reason that it's hard to be a good leader, is because a lot of things in leadership are counterintuitive. This is the reason why it's hard to stand out in a lot of things, is because a lot of the rules of success or principles are counterintuitive to a large degree. I'll give you an example of how I'm messing around with this personally. This is just a lesson in trying things. Life is a project. Life is just a series of projects. That's all it is. And so you just trying different things, seeing what happens and adjusting along the way. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're not. Again, point number 1, don't marry your plans. Is right now, I've noticed my biggest friction point with social media is not actually making content, not filming content, not having something to put out there, having something to say about it. Okay, well, what if I just put the words in the video and I just don't really have much of a caption, if a caption at all? What if I just do that? Could I do that every day? Seems like I could. 2 days, I'm 2 days in a row, right? I'm 2 for 2. So it's that little experiment that I'm running. It's like, well, people say you have to have these big, long, drawn out captions, but to be honest with you, I don't think people read that shit. I don't think people read that shit. I think you have a certain 10% of your audience that will read pretty much every word that you put out there. Those are your super fans. Enough super fans, you got a business, right? So it's not that they're not worth giving something to, but to be honest with you, I really could care less if somebody likes a post or doesn't. I want them to go, that's interesting. I wonder what else they have. And they go to my profile and then they engage in some way, shape, or form there. They click on something. That's my only goal with social media. I could care less about anything else. Of course, if you watch my stories, you'll see my family. You'll see maybe me acting goofy. You'll see, me and Stacy, whatever. But to the degree that social media is this portal into my world, I really could care less if I write this crazy long caption, because I've done that before and it takes more mental energy that I could be using doing something more fulfilling for me. So that's what I mean by flipping things on its head, right? It's the upside down model of progress.
Also, to build upon that, is that it's why we didn't put our free community on Facebook.
Yeah.
We're intentionally, it's still, we have to use online because we're online coaches, right? It's how people find us. But we built our free community not on a platform that people are easily on. We intentionally are asking people, do something different. So they're pulled out of that world too. And you intentionally have to come for us. We actually increased friction for something free that actually makes it more valuable than something that's common. But it's not how it was recommended to us. And we're like, okay, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this by our rules. And our free community actually costs us something. We pay.
Not free to us.
It's not free to us. We pay to have an online community to serve people. And we would rather pay and have it in this way than have it be free and it be incongruent to what both of us value. So just a little thing of people this is how we do this on purpose, and it costs you something to do something different. We believe in making those moves that make future moves, but it's with intention, even though majority of people aren't doing it the way we do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the with purpose on purpose type of motto that you talk about consistently. And so one of the bigger things, so we're talking about doing things differently, is one of the bigger things that we both um, agree that was a surprise was how we had to set up structures and boundaries and scaffolding within our friendship so that we didn't lose that in pursuit of a business opportunity, right? In pursuit of serving people, because you do have to be organized. You do have to be timely. You do have to be efficient. You can't just basically lollygag your way into better service. It just doesn't happen. You have to be disciplined. That's the point. And so we set ourselves up to protect ourselves as individuals and friends, not to have the biggest, fastest growing business. That's basically what we did. And that's what we continue to do at every corner that we turn. And we make mistakes, right? There's times where we're like, hey, this didn't get done. Or, hey, we said we were going to do this last week, whatever the thing is. Or like, one of us is lower energy, or one of us has something going on in the background and we didn't communicate that to the other person. Hey, look, all I need next time is just a heads up. Just tell me what you need and I got you, right? That's cover and move. And so what we didn't know is that before we started a business, we thought we had a great friendship, and it was and it is unique. But now that we've started a business, we have started to understand that we actually kind of sucked at communication prior to this compared to this. And now we have this color coded system, right? For example. And matter of fact, I think that would be a great like Instagram live to do in the future, is like, okay, how do we use our color coded system? But basically it's like, hey, is this a green? Are you green? Are you yellow? Are you red right now in this conversation? Because it can change throughout the day, just kind of depending on what happens. But it's like, hey, green is like, I'm flexible, I'm open, I'm ready to have some laughs. We can still get things done, but we're gonna kind of be goofy too. Yellow is, okay, we're more business, right? There's some room for some, puns or something, dad jokes here and there, but let's try to get it done. And then red is like, hey, look, I'm pretty low threshold right now. We just need to get what we came here to get and move on, because I don't have a lot to give you right now in this moment. Which sucks, because when we get to sit face to face, which it seems like it's all day long, but it's really, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that many waking hours across the week that we sit just with each other face to face, virtually, whatever, and conversate as friends. But like when it's red, it's red. You just have to kind of accept it, right? It's like when your kid's having a bad day. It's like, hey, dude, it doesn't have a whole lot, but when they're bad, they can be bad. So you just gotta let them do their thing. Temper it where you can, and then just move along. So that's a surprising part, that we thought we were good. We thought, yeah, you had us in the first half, but here we are, we're getting better.
Yeah, red is when I bring up no song lyrics. Red is when I just sit on my hands and I'm like, what do you need? I got you. What do you need? I got you.
I love how it's things that you have to hold yourself back from. Not when you're red. When I'm red, I got it. When I'm red,
Okay. So, what do you hold yourself back from when I'm red?
Probably like digs.
Yeah. What
Like
do you know? I'm really fancy.
Like little jabs. I'm like, okay, she doesn't have the tolerance today. She might blow up on me. I gotta be careful. That fuse is short.
Yeah. Like how many more nicknames can we throw at this today? How do we up level them?
Well, when I see an Ice Shaken Espresso on call 1 and a Diet Dr. Pepper on call 2, I'm like, have you drank water today, Stacy? Are you okay? Do I need to call the hospital?
Are you okay? I will say 100% agreement is that was the thing that surprised me the most. I didn't think our friendship could get better, nor did I need it to be. And every day we get to, and it is, and I can't wait to get to. And I want to bring this up because it's so important, and we're getting to see it, is that we have a mutual friend who is much farther ahead of us in business, who is literally championing us. And I think that would be the other thing that surprised me the most, is that the support that we've gotten, not only from people who want to work with us, but the support from people going, I see what you two have. Not only do I want to help you two grow, but I want to protect it and I want it to thrive. I've never been in a situation before ever that I felt as supported and championed as I do with what you and I are doing right now. Like, not ever. And it's not just one person, it's multiple people. And the thing that surprises me even still is not only the support and the connections that people are literally just handing us, and not just, hey, you go do this, but I'm going to bring you to this table and here's why, and I want you to have this relationship because you could serve this population. It was the question our friend Kaz asked us, and it's going to be a podcast we record with her and her husband in 2 weeks. So stay tuned, because we are international guests on a podcast. That's how they're talking about it on their podcast, because it's in Australia, that they have these international, guests coming from America to Australia.
That's what people will get to understand what "take the piss" means.
Oh, well, yeah. And so we get to land there. And she had asked me a question that I posed to you. It was very early on in our business. She said, you guys have done everything to protect your friendship from failure. What are you doing to protect your friendship and success? And we are just now, I'd say last week, starting to understand what that could look like. And that goes into the actions that we make are made really with faith and not expectation. Because how do you formulate something that big? People looking at us like we're the cute little babypreneurs going, they're so cute. Like, they don't even know what they have yet. Like, they don't even know what's in front of them. And they're so gracious to us to not tell us, to let us like learn a little bit at a time, going like, not that we're making mistakes, but they're watching us going, hey, we want to protect this too. Because what we have is so needed in the industry, in the world, that like we want to facilitate that. But how do we protect each other in success? And for me, I hadn't really seen that until last week. And so that surprised me too, because I couldn't fathom what that meant.
Yeah, I think it just, you don't know what you don't know, and you just haven't experienced enough to know as business partners or as friends or as people who are doing something that is new to the industry. There are other people doing similar categories of things, but they just don't do it like we do it, and that's with every industry, unless you're some type of, like leading technology or something like that. And the thing that is cool is we're in a time where we have the best opportunity to do that. I was listening to something earlier today, is like, could Jeff Bezos do what he did with Amazon in today's market conditions? Likely no, because the internet's been around a long time. His competitors are bigger than they were when he was blowing them off the charts, back in the day when Amazon started. So it's just understanding that, hey, this is a unique time in history. There's a unique time in our lives where we actually can take advantage of most people working from home, of most people being adept at technology, at most people being frustrated with the medical system. All right. There's a lot of things that are converging that allow us to do what we do. And so what we also talked about yesterday is what's the least favorite thing that we've had to do? What's the hardest part? And, that list is not super long, but I don't think we've done anything that's been like, man, this is just dreadful to do. The hardest part that I could condense to my brain to wrap around was that we all have these tendencies as humans, our, what I call our lizard brain, our creature comfort side of our brain, that says this will just be the easiest thing to do because I don't really want to put a lot of effort into something, or I'm pretty comfortable emotionally here, so I'm just going to stay in this lane. And a lot of those things did not set us up to feed that family focused, lifestyle focused vision. A lot of things are actually in our culture, especially like, again, going back to entrepreneur, is it set us up to, thought I adjusted my mic there for a minute. It set us up to, or they are setting you up to chase more money, make more business, work longer hours, so to speak. And so we had to override that tendency to go, okay, this is what my mind is telling me to do. Hustle, 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 or sell, 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 or learn. For me, like, I really enjoy consuming things, but that doesn't, not a whole lot of productivity comes out of that. And so I have to overcome that bias in my brain to go, hold on, this is why we have calendars, because there's a certain time for this and there's a certain time for this. And this is why we have a color coded system, because, like, hey, we still want to be good with each other at the end of each day. Right. So we had to create structure in order to get closer to that vision of cows and coffee on the front porch, for example. Because at the end of the day, what is having the world if it means you don't have people to share it with, right? And so that's where the hardest part has been, or I guess the hardest surprising part, because in my brain at the beginning, it wasn't like I was naive to be like, we don't really disagree on a lot, and we don't really disagree on a lot in truth. But the reason why that is because we set it up so that, hey, what am I missing? Like, what is Stacy doing that I don't quite understand? Or what am I doing that she may not quite understand? Or what do I need to tell her that I'm doing that I would probably normally just not say anything about, because it's just something that I do, so that she understands that there's a process to this that maybe she could lend to, right? There's a lot of nuances in those things, but I think that's been the hardest part.
I think the hardest part is when our weaknesses are the same. We really balance each other out super well. And usually my weaknesses are your strengths and your weaknesses are my strengths. So we're able to carry a load really well together, but there are those few places where our weaknesses are the same. And so the hardest part is that when we find something that is both our weakness, and that would be like our drive, is to pull back. We're like, we could do more. We could do more. And coming back to the discipline of, no, that's not how we set up the structure. Not of our friendship, not of our business, not of our family. And in that, I want to give an example of where less is actually more. Like, we talk a lot about leaving money on the table. And as we talked about this yesterday, I'm like, we're actually not. We're just building a bigger table. And we say it a lot that we're just waiting for time to come up. If you guys have listened for a little bit, you hear us tease about everything happens in more than 5 minutes and less than 5 months. And it was something that I said once flippantly, and we've actually watched it be abundantly accurate.
Yep. Spot on.
Spot on. And as we were talking yesterday, and I want to bring this to people before we close, is that I thanked you. I thanked you for doing this with me and taking this risk with me, because doing business together and it's not just the business, it's the people that we get to serve and the lives that we get to impact, and how impactful we really, really are. And you don't know this because it was a client call I had this morning of somebody who was on the cohort. We were talking about what we went over last night, and she's like, yeah. And I talked to my wife, and I was teaching her the things that you and Justin are teaching me, and it's changing the way that we engage with people. And I almost literally choked up. One, I couldn't wait to tell you, but our vision of how we wanted people to come sit at our table, whether that's just in the free community or in the cohort or in our dual coaching, was that they would take what they learned from us, that they would practice it, they would take it back to their homes, and then it would go to their community. And they are. They are. And I'm like, holy crap. We get to. And so in this of us saying, hey, we want to do this together, it ignited other dreams that I had let go, which it sounds so silly, like sourdough is a dream. And it's not about the sourdough. It's creating a home for my family that's like a safety and a refuge, where food is sacred, where food is special. And so today I'm making my own butter. Really, and making butter isn't hard, people. It's whipping cream and a KitchenAid mixer for 12 minutes. You can do this. It's not complicated. Now, does me making sourdough and butter really change anything in life? No, but it's me planting seeds for when I want to be more sustainable, when our YouTube channel is filled with you and I and raised beds and cows and, more of that farmer coming back to life. And, the way Stacey and Justin canning channel, we're making salsa. And the other day we were talking about making our own bacon.
Stay tuned for the canning, okay? Come for the fitness, come for the health, stay for the canning.
Hey, we're also making bacon. We're going to make our own bacon. So I say that because as someone with so much drive and passion to impact people's lives, that I laid down a lot of things for a long time that were loves that I'm picking back up to facilitate that 5-year dream from now, that 10-year dream from now that wasn't on the table until we did this. And that is where we pull back on purpose so that we can live the lives we want.
Well, I can't not say this now. So you're talking about making bacon. So if you've listened this far on the podcast, congratulations. You're about to learn a history lesson you probably didn't need, but you'll love. So bringing home the bacon, like that's a common phrase, right? That means like, hey, you're the money maker, you're the breadwinner, right? Bringing home the bacon. Well, what that comes from is back in the really early days where most people were, dirt floor poor. If you had bacon, you were pretty well to do. Like if you were eating bacon, that was an expensive commodity. So people would take bacon, like pork fat, and hang it from like the rafters of the inside of their house as like a sign of wealth. But like if you were the one bringing home the goods, you were bringing home the bacon. This is also where the phrase chewing the fat comes from. Like when we're sitting around talking, it's say chew the fat is because they would sit around and eat, like pick the bacon off and chew the fat. And so a lot of our phrases, that just like the bacon comment made me think of it, but a lot of our phrases come from actually signs of, well-to-do or signs of being very poor back in that time period. What amazes me is that phrase has lasted strong all into, hundreds of years later, right? Or whatever it is. Which is pretty cool. So you know what? If you're right, there will be bacon on our channel because we're bringing it home. So
hey, and the first goal is just Costco. We get the pork belly. I'm gonna cure it. You're gonna smoke it. That'll be fine. But the next thing is like to actually, because Jonathan has raised pigs, is to be like, I got my own piggies, and we literally take our own piggies and make our bacon. And like, so there's levels to this dish, like tiramisu.
Yeah. We're not a channel for vegans, so
no,
probably should, steer clear now. But anywho, which is hilarious because one of Stacey's best friends is a vegan. So that's great. But the thing that I want to leave everybody with here is that, yes, we have gone, over an hour now talking about lessons that we've learned in the past couple months in business, but really they're just life lessons. That business was the framework that we got taught. A lot of people learn these lessons in the military, right? Being in a team where the stakes are high. A lot of people learn these lessons being in business, like an entrepreneur, like a person who's running a department within a company. And some people just learn these lessons having a friend or having friends that they go and do things with on a regular basis and being like, oh yeah, that's right. Every time we go somewhere, so-and-so takes longer than we expect. So everything takes 30 more minutes. Right. And so there's like little nuances of these things that if you look for them, you will see them. So that's what our challenge is to you here is to go out and look for them.
Yeah. And if you want more of us, one, thank you. Things that also surprise me for 100, Alex.
Things that make you go,
How much people want both of us is always fascinating to me. But I love that you do. We love that you do. We've got a free online community and it's on School. So if you look for Fortify Health, you will find us. And we are in May doing a 30-day stress detox before your kids come home for summer. And you're actually going to get the best of me. I'm bringing stuff that I haven't brought publicly in years. So if you were a previous student of mine, that still listens to this, hang tight. Stacy's bringing the yoga playlists back. They'll be on Spotify. You'll be able to get them for free. This whole thing is just in the Fortify Health free community, but it's something you're not going to want to miss.
Absolutely. And so if you're looking for that, by the way, when she says detox, she doesn't mean that we're going to do a juice cleanse. Okay.
No,
so
God. Oh my God, please.
So chill out if that's your thought. But the Fortify Health Coaching Group, if you're looking for it in school, if you need the direct access to it, you can either go to fortifyhealth.co.co/Justin or /Stacy. Either one of those links will get you to where you can find how to get access to that group. So that would be the most direct way to do it. It's on our Instagram bio. If you need to, you can message us. We prefer that you message us and say, hey, what the heck is this thing? How do I do it? And we can guide you. So with that, we appreciate everybody who's listening and watching, and we'll see you next week.